When have you met someone that was pure evil? Part 1. He was one of those really loud, outgoing types. Always convinced he was some kind of genius. He'd barge right into your space, excited to tell you all about his brilliant plans like he was doing you a favor. It never crossed his mind that maybe you had things to do, like real things. He was always mixed up in something that kind of sounded legal but never made much sense when he tried to explain it. I figured he probably lost his law license after whatever that whole situation was. But as long as you listened like you cared, he was your best friend. He even asked me about my job sometimes, like he wanted to seem thoughtful. His girlfriend, I did not know her too well. She mostly leaned on him, seemed to depend on him a lot. She was nice, just kind of distant, like she kept part of herself hidden. Then one day I got back home and heard their place had caught fire. People were whispering that maybe he had finally tried to get rid of her for good. But they both made it out alive. There was this woman I worked with, she got really into the documentary about him. Like, really into it. For her birthday, I gave her a card and thought it'd be funny to get him and his girlfriend to sign it. They thought it was a great idea and were happy to do it. 2. It takes a truly awful kind of person to carry a grudge for that many years. But for me, it was never about a grudge, it was about finally seeing someone for who they really were. There was this guy the first used to work with. Everyone liked him. He had that overly friendly vibe, always smiling, always acting like your best buddy. But over time, I came to realize that his kindness was fake. It was not about helping people, it was about using them. He acted sweet so he could get away with things, to people, not for them. Even now, nearly 3 decades later, I would not be shocked one bit if I saw his name on the news. I can picture turning on the television, logging online, or reading the paper and finding out he had murdered his own family, then tried to blame it on some random black man. Last I heard, he was still living in the Twin Cities. If something like that ever happened, it would not just be a tragedy, it would stir up a whole storm of problems way beyond the crime itself. There was this kid named Judd that my sister used to babysit. Honestly, calling him a monster would not even be an exaggeration. One time, after watching a Harry Potter movie with his brothers, the others started playing around, pretending to be wizards. But Judd just sat there and said, "That was stupid. If I had them, I would never let them go. They'd be mine forever." It was the kind of thing that made your skin crawl, even back then. His mom adored him, he was her golden child. She practically raised him to become a serial killer, whether she realized it or not. Judd ended up getting banned from our house after trying to kill our pet tortoise. Twice. Then he went after our cat. After that, nobody wanted him around anymore. At his own house, it was even worse. He started killing their pets, one after another. First it was 3 goldfish. Then there were only 2. Then 1. Same thing happened with their hamsters. They started with 3, ended with 1. After that one died, they moved on to rabbits. He killed 2 of them. The dad rehomed the last one before anything happened to it. The father had had enough. He told the mom no more animals in the house. But she refused to listen, said the kids needed a pet to feel normal. So she went out and bought them 3 expensive, purebred puppies. Judd was furious. He hated them. He even tried to give the dogs away. He begged my family to take one, but my dad said no, and he still feels guilty about that to this day. 3 weeks later, there were only 2 puppies left. If you asked the dad what happened, he would not even answer. The look on his face told you everything. But the mom? She just said, "It was so sad." One of the puppies got sick and died in the middle of the night. The final straw was what he did to his little brother. He loved hurting him. One day he shoved the poor kid down a staircase. Then, when the boy was unconscious at the bottom, he pushed him down a second set of stairs. And somehow, the mom spun this story that the youngest boy had tripped and done it to himself. After that, the dad completely shut down. Every morning, he would just sit in his car, parked outside the house, with the 2 dogs in the back seat, and stare at the place. I told my mom, one of these days, he's just going to drive away. And one day, that is exactly what happened. As soon as the younger boy recovered, I saw the dad at 5 in the morning loading up the dogs into the car. Then he went back inside, grabbed some bags, and finally came out with both kids. Before he got in, he looked up at me. There was so much pain and fear in his eyes. I just nodded and said, "Go." He nodded back, and then he left. Ever since then, I have wondered when I would see Judd's face on the news. Back in middle school, there was this girl, I will call her Hannah. We met in 6th grade. At first, she seemed pretty cool. We both liked anime, so I figured we had something in common. But by the 2nd semester, I started to notice things. She would always say little things to make me feel small, criticizing what I liked, talking down to me. And every time I said something, she would come back with, "I am only telling you this because I care about you." Yeah, right. By 7th grade, the mask was completely off. One day, she came up to me and said, "Hey, that is a cute shirt. I am surprised you are not showing off your stomach rolls today, haha." And I just laughed it off, like, haha, yeah, because I still thought we were friends. I had no idea what kind of person she really was. Then came the part that totally flipped my opinion. One morning, I was riding the bus to school, and I saw her walking on the sidewalk. There was this little puppy trotting near her, just a happy little dog. Out of nowhere, Hannah kicked it. Hard. Me and a few other kids on the bus saw it happen, and we were like, what in the world? Why would she do that? When I got off the bus and walked into school, she was actually bragging about it. Like it was something to be proud of. I just stared at her, thinking, what is wrong with you? It only got worse from there. She would steal food from other kids without even caring. She made comments that encouraged disordered eating and self-harm. Honestly, she reminded me of one of those toxic internet personalities, like a female version of that YouTuber Onajin. Always manipulative, always cruel, always seeking attention. People like her, they're out there. And yeah, they are completely unhinged. I had this friend growing up, through childhood and into our teenage years. She did a lot of selfish stuff, but I kept brushing it off. It was not until the very end of our friendship that everything finally clicked, and I saw just how twisted she really was. At one point, she got herself a pit bull puppy and kept it at her mom's house. Looking back, I am pretty sure her mom was on something heavy, maybe crack. The place was disgusting. The whole house smelled awful, and it was a mess. Her mom had a cat that had just had kittens, so now there were baby cats crawling around everywhere, on top of the chaos. And then there was the puppy, way too big and rowdy for a house full of newborn kittens. The mother cat was doing what any animal would do to protect her babies. She would hiss and swipe at the dog anytime it came near. It was just instinct, but my friend got angry. She was sick of the cats and said she wanted them gone. I thought it was just talk, just her being frustrated. A few months later, she got into an argument with a mutual friend of ours. As that friend was storming off, she shouted back, "Why do you not tell her what happened to the cats, huh?" I froze. I asked, what was that about? And my so-called friend just started talking fast, coming up with some excuse. I do not even remember what it was, I just know I believed her. I wanted to believe her. Years passed. More strange things kept happening around her. Eventually, the mask fell off, and I realized she had always been someone dark, someone cruel. And ever since that day, I have never been able to shake the feeling that something awful happened to those kittens. She was not just selfish. She was evil. 5 story. Back in high school, I had a best friend, we will call her Kay. We stayed close even after graduation. She had this wild side to her, but at the time, I just thought it was part of her charm. Looking back now, some of the stuff she did was just unhinged. There was this one night that still sticks with me, even though I was not there. She and another friend of ours, Leah, went to a fraternity party. I cannot even remember why I did not go, but I heard all about it afterward. So, the frat guys were hyping up these steaks they had marinating in the kitchen. Talking about how they were going to be the best steaks anyone ever had. Apparently, that triggered something in Kay, no idea what or why, but she decided she needed to do something about it. She and Leah snuck into the kitchen. Leah kept watch at the door while Kay grabbed a plastic cup, peed in it, and then carefully poured some of it over each and every steak. Yeah, that really happened, and to this day, I still cannot figure out what made her do that. It was not about revenge. Nobody at the party had wronged her. It was just pure chaos. She had this streak in her, this need to cause mayhem for no reason at all. That was not the only thing she did, either. Around that same time, there were other stunts, stuff that felt less like jokes and more like little acts of destruction. Was she evil? I do not know, but she was definitely an agent of chaos. My parents. There is a lot to say. Recently, my father and I had a serious argument. Growing up, I went through a lot. I was mentally and physically abused, and something happened to me when I was really young, something that crossed the line sexually. I still have a hard time even thinking about it. At one point, my mom tried to get me checked out by a doctor. I have this strange issue going on with me, hard to explain, but the doctor seemed more worried about my mental health than anything else. And the moment I heard that, I knew where things were headed. Eventually, I opened up to a therapist and told her some of what had happened to me, though not the sexual part, at least not that I could remember clearly. She took what I said seriously and started a case to try to hold the person responsible. I thought, for once, maybe I would be believed. Later on, I moved back in with my dad. I thought it might help me mentally. But we got into a fight, and he said something that completely crushed me. He looked me in the eye and said, "That woman dropped your case because you are a liar." That moment shattered something inside me. From the very beginning, he never believed me. And the therapist, the one I trusted, also ended up calling me a liar. That was the first time I completely broke down in front of my dad. He told me my depression was my own fault. After that, I could never see him the same way again. My respect for him was gone. When I was younger, his ex-wife, my former stepmother, used to beat me while he worked night shifts. I was just a kid. I was forced to take freezing cold baths. I was dragged around by my hair, scratched and bitten, hit, and even had my head slammed into a wall. A lot of that time is a blur now, but the worst parts still stand out. They always will. And my mom? She did not make things better. I was dating a guy back then, and he once told me I could talk to him, really open up. So I did. I shared things I had never told anyone. His response? He called me a psychopath. I yelled at him. We were on a phone call, and my mom came into the room asking what was going on. I told her what he had said to me, expecting comfort or something like it. Instead, she looked at me and said, "What did you expect?" Then she added, "You are just like your father." My mom sees my dad when she looks at me. My dad sees my mom. And I am caught in the middle of all that. Do you see how messed up that is? This one is not as extreme as the others, but it still messed up a lot of lives. My half-sister, she caused some serious damage to our family. I will never forget one Christmas when she deliberately picked a fight with our dad. She pushed all his buttons on purpose, then called him the worst name you could imagine, the F word. She wanted him to react, to blow up, just so she could make him look like the bad guy. And it worked. That one moment set everything in motion. After that, our connection with my dad's side of the family just crumbled. It was like she had flipped a switch, cutting off not just him, but also me, my mom, and my younger sister from the rest of the family. It has taken over 10 years for things to even begin healing. Only now am I in touch again with two of my cousins and my paternal grandparents, the ones who never gave up trying to keep contact with us. They saw what was happening, but even they could not stop it at the time. What hurts the most is what this did to my dad. He spiraled hard. He sank into depression, and our relationship fell apart because of it. We started fighting constantly. And why? Because he kept projecting her onto me. Just because I hit puberty and we had a few things in common, he started treating me like I was her. It broke us. I swear, if I ever see her again, I will not stay quiet. She ruined our father, shattered parts of our family, and now she has a child. My nephew. And from what I have seen and heard, she is already failing him. A cousin showed me a post she made, before she deleted it, where she bragged about using her own baby to win the family back and to drive my dad to suicide. That was her plan. I have the screenshot, and I cannot stop thinking about it. She is dangerous. And if I have to, I will fight for custody of her child. I will not let her repeat this cycle of harm. My nephew does not deserve to carry the weight of her anger and manipulation. Nobody does. I used to just think she was selfish. Now I believe she is something darker, something cruel. She wrecked my dad's mind, hurt everyone around her, and keeps going like none of it matters. If I have to become her punishment to stop her from ruining another life, then so be it. She fooled around and kissed my boyfriend behind my back. He was my very first love, and she was supposed to be my best friend. She even tried to hug me later, saying sorry and all that, but she never stopped. She stole my boyfriend away. And when I got a new one, she went after him, too. By then, I was no longer friends with her, they just happened to go to the same church. I found out she drops all her friends once a guy comes along. I would see her all the time out with different guys, laughing, flirting, acting like she was the queen of the place. When she kept sneaking around with my boyfriend, knowing full well how much it hurt me, it felt like getting hit by a semi-truck. My heart felt like it shattered. But I needed that pain, it gave me the strength to yell at her like she deserved. Honestly, I hope her life is miserable now. She is gorgeous and super popular, especially with guys. But I want her to feel some of the hurt she caused me. I always knew something was off about this one friend, but I tried to excuse it because it only showed up when he was pushed. Like, he really hated kids. One time, the neighbor's kids left their toys scattered over the property line, and he just took them and gave them away. When our friend group was playing Dungeons and Dragons, we all talked about our real-life personality alignments. Most of us said neutral or something close to that. But he was the only one who admitted to being evil in some way. A few years later, things got way worse. He cheated on his girlfriend with his ex-girlfriend. The ex got pregnant. Then, right before her first ultrasound, he killed her. Now he's sitting in jail, waiting for his trial. Some people from our friend group still write to him. I can't. My ex-husband was something else. He admitted himself that he was a compulsive liar. He hated it when people really got to know him, so much so that he eventually did not even realize how much he was misleading everyone around him. He left his own son behind and handed him off to his parents to raise. That was just the beginning. He once put a cat in the microwave. I still cannot believe that happened. He used to send dead squirrels through the mail to his so-called friends. Like, who does that? He was married and divorced 3 times, twice before he even turned 25, because he could never stay faithful to one woman. I am not judging anyone for multiple marriages, but in his case, it was clear why it happened. He dropped huge chunks of concrete from overpasses onto 18-wheel trucks driving below. Dangerous, reckless, and just plain evil. He was so messed up, he actually believed that if he ever met his biological mother, he would have a one-night stand with her and then reveal who he really was, just to mess with her and get revenge for being adopted out. He wanted to destroy entire ecosystems by dumping different animals into random water supplies. His plan was chaos and ruin. He got fired from one job for sexual harassment. From another, he got fired for sending death threats. I could keep going, but I think you get the picture. My mother. The first memory I have of her is her telling me that I was supposed to be aborted and the only thing that saved me was God. She physically and emotionally abused me and my siblings. She would constantly tell me and my sisters that no man would ever love any of us and the only thing we were good for was our bodies. She started tell us that as soon as we could talk. She made our father stop hugging us around 5 years old because she thought if he got too close he would rape us, which she constantly accused him of all throughout our lives. She actually made me stop taking showers after sundown at the age of 10 because she said it made her feel like I just got finished having sex with my father. She would beat us over the slightest, tiniest of things. I didn't make my bed before school. She got a wooden cutting board, took it to the butt, back, and legs. My little sister, around 5 at the time, say something my mother thought a 5-year-old shouldn't say? Metal serving spoon to the mouth. All of my sisters and I didn't have the house cleaned to her liking. She would break whatever she could grasp on us. The thing sticks with me the most is the fact she thought her actions out. She didn't just beat us out of anger. She did it as a calculated, hidden, stress-relieving action. She would beat us in places that our teachers would never see, threaten us to make us never tell, convince us we deserved it, and laugh while doing it. She literally cackled with every landed hit. She manipulated every person she met to make them believe that she was a saint. She would tell other people how proud of us she was and how God had blessed her with 4 beautiful girls and proceed to gush about what a damn near perfect family she had. She has always plotted for as long as I can remember to get my dad's retirement. She always told us she didn't love him and she was just there because God was going to pay her in the end. There is so much she has done. There is so much pain and torment she has caused. She still isn't sorry for anything. I've had to hide where I live from her now. My dad is trying to divorce her now from all the bullshit she put him through on his end and what he is just now finding out what she has done to us. We live in Texas and he didn't sign a prenuptial agreement. So far it looks like she's getting at least half of his retirement in the house. It makes me sick to know someone so evil is getting everything they've plotted for. I've tried to kill myself 3 times to get away from her and she's getting everything she's ever wanted. My sisters have physical ailments from her abuse now and my mother is getting her brand new life she's always bragged she was going to get. I'm sorry this was long and is probably going to get buried, but I've been holding this in for the better part of 20 years. I once met a woman who killed her own son in cold blood. After the murder, she hid his body in the bathtub downstairs, covering it with kitty litter. I met her after she had done it, but before anyone else knew what happened. Let me explain how I knew her. Angela Mans was the gardener for my dad's girlfriend's mom. Yeah, it's a bit of a chain, so bear with me. There's me, then my dad. He has a girlfriend. That girlfriend's mom, let's call her DGM for short, had a gardener. That gardener was Angela Mans. So no, I was never friends with her. But Angela was already a strange woman. She worked late hours, sometimes well past sundown. Several times, she even camped out in the backyard of DGM's house. One time, DGM went downstairs and found Angela wearing her daughter's clothes. Yeah, weird, right? Totally invading privacy. And what made it weirder was that DGM is a big woman, and Angela was so thin she looked like she could blow away in the wind. Who knows why she did it? Maybe she thought she had some kind of right to those things. DGM's birthday is on the 4th of July, so every year they have a big party, fireworks, cake, the whole thing. Angela came to that party a few years ago, along with my brother, his girlfriend, and a bunch of other friends and family. I remember Angela being really odd. Not just strange in a small way, but intense. Her eyes looked like they were bulging out, she talked a lot but seemed like she was forcing it, her politeness was over the top, and her laugh was loud and a little scary. It felt like she was barely holding herself together. And all this was while her child's body was sitting in her bathtub, hidden under kitty litter for about a week. Other than just being weird, there were no obvious signs that she had done something so horrific. It is a strange thing, finding out that someone you know, even if barely, has killed their own child. Since I was born, my mom, dad, my sister, and I had to live with my grandmother because we needed help with money. We couldn't live with my grandpa because my grandma had shot and killed him when my dad was just 9 years old. For some reason, I don't know if it's genetics or what, I looked a lot like my grandpa, and my grandma hated me from the moment I was a little kid. She was never kind to me. She hurt me a lot and even tried to kill me more than once. When I was about 5, my parents would go on vacations and leave my sister and me with my grandma. My sister was older, around 12, and she was usually at her friends' houses. But when my sister was gone, my grandma would lock me in my room, especially on hot summer days. My room was like a sauna, and I couldn't reach the door handle to get out. She wouldn't feed me for days, and when she finally did, she would throw my food on the backyard floor. Then I had to fight her dogs just to eat for the first time in days. She also cut my wrists once, trying to make it look like an accident. My sister came home and tried to help me, but my grandma loved my sister and didn't want to get caught. For a long time, I thought all this was normal because it had been happening to me my whole life. When I tried to tell my mom, dad, or sister, my grandma would say I was lying or talk over me so I couldn't get a word in. When I tried to get attention, my parents would just send me to my room and wouldn't let me eat dinner. When I was about 8, my sister started realizing what was going on. She tried to tell our parents, but they sent her to her room too, calling me a bad child. My grandma began to make life hard for my mom too, starting fights between my mom and dad. She had retired by then and would start drinking every afternoon. By the time I was 10, she was an alcoholic. She always made sure not to pick fights with my dad because she didn't want to be kicked out of the house. One day, I was playing in the garage while my dad was gardening outside. Suddenly, my grandma hit me on the head with a huge wrench from behind. It hurt so bad, my head was burning, and tears made it hard to see. I stumbled around, bumping into tools and bricks, screaming as loud as I could. Then she hit me again with her walking stick. Suddenly, she screamed too. My dad had seen everything through the window. He is a big man, and when he blocked her exit, she fainted. Even 7 years later, I still see a psychologist, but things are getting better. My parents finally believe me, and we no longer live with her. One day, if I find her, I hope something really bad happens to her.